Elrayess steps into the Oxford Union presidency after a campaign shaped by pressure, accusations, and determination. She describes the moment she first saw how powerful a young person's voice can be, a moment that convinced her change is possible. She calls the Oxford Union a bubble, long shaped by a small circle, and wants to open it to stories and debates usually kept outside. Many students from marginalized backgrounds assume the space is not meant for them, and she aims to prove otherwise. Her campaign faced smear attempts, from claims of extremism to warnings that her supporters risked counterterrorism charges. What mattered most was keeping her team focused. Students from many backgrounds, including Jewish students and supporters from conservative, labor, and liberal traditions, stayed by her side.
I am here not despite my background, I am here because of it. Living in the UK, you are very obviously sheltered from the realities of those conditions. And that changed when I was around 5 years old, when we moved to Gaza. So me and my mother and my father, and my younger brother moved to Gaza. And you really don't forget what you see there, right? We didn't stay there for too long, but I realized that because I had the British nationality, I was very fortunate to have the British nationality, that I would have a completely different life to my cousins in Gaza, who were no different in terms of their intelligence. They were no less intelligent, no less competent, no less capable, but they were going to live a completely different life to the one that I was going to live, purely because of circumstance. And that's kind of where I started thinking about, what is my duty as somebody in the diaspora, right? What do I owe the people that I left behind? And I found myself in Oxford, and then I also found myself around the Oxford Union. And this was a place where, conversations were freely held, freedom of speech was held as, the most important element of the institution. Conversations would happen here that you would have nowhere else in the world. I think, so the very first time I interacted with the Union was during the Palestine-Israel debate. And that to me was a moment, I think one of the first moments in my life where I felt like I could freely and openly talk about my experiences, and talk about my stories and the narratives that shaped my people. And there was a moment where our family house was bombed, and we lost quite a few members of our family. Someone came up to me afterwards, and they told me, whenever I read about Palestine and Israel, I read through the statistics and I read through the headlines, and it just doesn't feel. It feels so abstract. It doesn't feel entirely real. And I sat down with him and I spoke to him extensively about my experience in Gaza, my family's experiences in Gaza, and he told me that for the very first time he felt an emotional connection to the cause. The Union is unfortunately a bubble, right? You have a couple people on committee, or you have people on committee who are able to shape the narrative and the way that the Union is run. But you've got a membership of tens of thousands of people, all with incredible stories, with incredible purposes, with incredible backstories that they would love to come and speak to in the Union, and people would love to listen to, but we don't tap into that enough. So I think one of the main things that I want to characterize my term here in the Union is to make sure that we tap into that broader membership. I faced countless smear campaigns. I was called an extremist, an anti-Semite. People on my team were told not to run with me because they would be investigated for counterterrorism charges. People thought or accused me of being on a counterterrorism watch list, that I was blacklisted from companies, and that I was put on Canary Watch. That, to me, was going to happen regardless. And I think the lesson that you learn here is that people are going to try and find you or bring you down for anything that they can possibly latch onto. And if they are successful in scaring you away, then nothing ever changes, right? They will continue to scare away people who come after you. They will scare away people who also want to speak up like you. And so it wasn't, for me, when it was happening, it was, how do I make sure that the people who are with me, who believe in my team, know that this is just another attempt to bring us down, to silence what we believe in and what we're fighting for. But what's really special is that at no point did someone hear those rumors who believed in me and my team and my effort, and at no point did that let them scare them away. And I think every single time that argument was weaponized, or that those allegations were made and they were unsuccessful in scaring someone away, they were made weaker and weaker. I had many Jewish students who were actually running on my campaign. It was people from all sorts and walks of life, different ideologies, different creeds, different political beliefs. I had an officer running with me who was from the Conservative Association, another from the Labour Association, another from the Liberals Association. They all put aside all those political beliefs because they believed in the campaign and the vision, and they wanted us all to do well. I think my message to not just Palestinians, but all people from marginalized groups who feel like they're not being heard or they don't have the platform to be heard, is that places like this that you might think are far too abstract and far too closed off, you do deserve a place in them. And you are able to pave your way within them. You might feel afraid that you're going to be attacked and targeted, and you probably will, but that shouldn't scare you off, right? Because for every one person who's willing to put you down, there's 10 people who are willing to pick you back up. But you need to put yourself out there. You need to take the first step, even if other people haven't done it before you, but you need to be the one who takes the first step so that somebody else after you can take the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. And once you break that glass ceiling, it makes it so much easier for others to continue to break those glass ceilings. There are very few moments in history where such changes are so clear and visible to everyone. Make sure you use the best out of that opportunity.